Alright, so here are some more tricks slash life hacks that I use in my own games and that I think are very underrated. So let's get started. So the first trick is when a piece like a knight or a bishop, for example, lands in your position and is a very strong piece, consider sacrificing the exchange for it. So in this case, we sacrificed a rook for the knight and we also get a pawn for it as well. So we give up a rook and we get a knight and a pawn. And what that does is it just frees up your position. Now you're not cramped in as much anymore. You can finally start to think about your own plans instead of constantly worrying that you might blunder a fork or your queen to this knight. And overall, I would definitely recommend it. Now, the main reason I'm saying this is because I see many people trying to hold on to their material and not give it up and try to keep it as equal as possible, when in reality their pieces are dependent on their position. And just because a knight is 3 points doesn't mean that when it's in a position like this and it's dominating a lot of your pieces and taking away your squares, it doesn't mean your rook has more worth than this knight. Let's go over to the next one. So the next one is an endgame trick and it's quite simple. Basically, you have to have a pawn that is very close to promotion. Ideally, you already have it protected so that you can move your rook away to the back rank and your rook will be protected by that pawn. How that is going to look like is they're going to play a move, and after you move your rook to the opposing files of this pawn, now you will play rook b1. Basically what you're saying is you either take my rook and I will promote, or you don't take and I will take your rook. So this is not an instant win if your opponent knows what they're doing. One way to defend is to defend the piece that is holding the promotion square for the pawn. Instead of knight f1 in the beginning, white could play something like king f2. And then if you still try to go for your plan of rook b1, the king can just defend the rook. And now you don't really have anything. I mean, you can take the rook, but then the king will just take back. And now you can't even promote anymore. That's one way to defend. The other problem with this is that you need your pawn to be defended so that you can move it away. Just as a side note, but generally very strong plan in the endgame if you have a passed pawn. So let's go over to the next one. So the next one is actually one of my favorites, and it's that when you have a bad pawn structure in front of your king and the file that your king is on is opened up, what you can do here is actually switch the side. So what I mean by that is you tuck your king to the corner and then you bring your rook to the file that has been opened. If your opponent has their king castled on the same side, then you're going to be the one attacking, even though you have a terrible pawn structure. This can lead to a lot of very nice attacking games, since you also have a rook involved. And a game like this can end very quickly here. So let's just say the opponent plays g6. Now you can already just take a pawn for free and the rook has to move. There's already sacrifices looming. And this is just a terrible position. Definitely one of my favorites. It leads to very nice attacking games if you can manage to pull it off. And the thing about this is that most opponents aren't actually aware of this. They just think, oh, okay, I got this terrible pawn structure in front of their king and I must be better. But that's actually not the case. And a bonus that you can add here is to even double up the rooks. So let's just say your opponent moves. You can literally just keep on adding pressure on top of their king while your pawn structure and your king is quote unquote vulnerable. So there you have it. These are my tricks and life hacks that I use in my own games. So if you managed to learn something from this video, consider subscribing. Other than that, that is it for the video. Thanks for watching.